Brendan Kennedy. Yes, that Brendan Kennedy of Privateer Holdings. Those holdings include, of course, Leafly out of Seattle, Tilray out of Canada, and Marley Natural out of the recesses of your mind for the moment. But that launch is coming up soon. Had a great time talking to Brendan about exactly what it is that makes for a successful business. He gets into the global cannabis community a bit. So good conversation. Check us out on Twitter at caneconomy.com. That's two N's, the word economy. Same thing on Facebook. Enjoy this conversation with Brendan Kennedy, Privateer Holdings. And so we've got Brendan Kennedy, the Brendan Kennedy, from Privateer Holdings, from Tilray, from Leafly, from Marley Natural. Am I leaving anything out, Brendan?
No, you're not, Seth. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Do give us the overview of, we are now here in 2016. It's January. What should we expect for Privateer? What are you looking at for this year?
Oh, gosh. A lot of our focus this year is getting our brands into as many hands as possible. So we focus on obviously all of the opportunities inside the United States as well as globally. A lot of the interesting things that we're working on today are actually taking place outside of the United States in places like Canada and in the EU and in Australia.
Okay. Well, Canada, I know we can talk about. What's the latest with Tilray, one of the licensed producers there? You've got a new prime minister up there. How has that changed what you're doing with Tilray, if at all?
Oh, if anything, it's increased the speed of change. That's been one of the things that has continued to shock us over the last 6 years that we've been in the industry. This it's just moving so quickly. I came from Silicon Valley. I came from the technology industry where I thought the pace there was fast, but the velocity of change in this industry is unlike anything I've ever seen. And Canada, really the first G8 nation to have a national medical cannabis program, will likely be the first G8 nation to implement a recreational cannabis program or retail cannabis program at the national level, and that's something that we expect to see, likely by the end of this year, which will be an exciting development for Canada, but it'll also be an important step for the rest of the world.
Did I just hear you right? You're talking rec. You're talking adult use, legal adult use in Canada by the end of 2016.
I think it's very likely that that's what we'll see.
How would those chips fall, if you don't mind taking us through that?
So this is an important step. It's an important part of the platform on which Prime Minister Trudeau was elected. It was one of the biggest changes he discussed implementing. He's put together a team of people who are looking at what cannabis legalization looks like from a national perspective. They've got their tasks ahead of them, and they're starting to have conversations with people inside the industry and politicians and bureaucrats and regulators to devise a national program.
Yes, certainly it was, on that platform that he ran on. We're well aware of that. I think maybe my confusion about, them being able to accomplish it by the end of 2016 is the fact that I'm used to our government in the United States and how quickly things move at a federal level, in terms of getting big things done. So that might be on me. How about that?
Well, I think that they've made a decision to do this. They have a strong majority. They have the will to do it, and it's simply a matter of designing the right regulations, the right program to get it accomplished. And we think that 12 months is optimistic, but I certainly think it's possible and probable.
All right. So we've got Tilray in Canada, brand new prime minister, bullish, but hopefully by the end of 2016, we've got an adult use program up there in a G8 nation. As you said, that's fantastic. Let's move on to name recognition. You've got Marley Natural. There isn't really more name recognition than Marley in relation to cannabis. You could argue that. But what are you doing with that brand?
So that brand, we'll launch that brand in about 2 weeks. We'll launch it the first week of February. It's something we've been working on for a long time. We're excited about the products we've created. We're excited about the brand that we're building. Obviously, it took a long time to negotiate that agreement with the family of Bob Marley, as well as their agents, Creative Artists Agency, CAA. But we couldn't ask for better partners from the Marley family or CAA. And we're excited to launch. When we announced it in November of 2014, it was covered by 2,000 media outlets around the world in 196 countries, and we received 2.3 billion impressions of that story. It was an important milestone for Privateer Holdings as a company, but we really felt at the time that it was an important milestone for the industry as a whole, and that's one of our objectives, to help the industry. A rising tide lifts all boats.
That's it. Many people say that. That is absolutely true. One more question on Marley Natural. The only other word in that brand name other than Marley is natural. What's in the etymology there? Why did you choose that brand name, or why did the team choose that brand name?
Oh, for us, it's important that cannabis is a natural product. It's something that is found in nature. It was an important part of how Bob Marley talked about the product, how he talks about his connection to nature, as well as important things in his life. So he would talk about peace and unity and social justice being important for humankind, and respect for nature. And so it was the right word for us. It had the right meaning, the right connotations, and it was something we wanted to embrace as a brand. And so we're looking for sun-grown providers and expert producers and quality craftsmanship when it comes to all of the different facets of the different products.
Absolutely. You are a producer in your own right at Tilray. You've got your, products through Marley Natural. Let's now focus on the hometown play, the one from Washington State, the digital play, the tech area that you come from, Leafly. Take us back. How did that launch? And tell us the story, in the time that we have.
So we came across the original founding team at Leafly about 5.5 years ago. We liked them. We liked the brand. Originally we looked at an investment opportunity with them and quickly realized that we needed to take more of a hands-on approach, that there were a lot of things that we could do with the company where we needed to recruit a management team. We needed to work on the strategy. And so we ended up making an acquisition there in late 2011, moved the company from Orange County to Seattle, and today there's roughly 52 people who work for Leafly. Last month had 7.2 million people use Leafly either online or using the iPhone or Android app, and we served up about 45 million pages of information on cannabis, medical cannabis, strains, and places where people could find those strains. as well as we've built out a great content team that is producing content, 2 to 3 articles on a daily basis and video on a daily basis that serve to educate consumers and patients in the United States as well as internationally. About 25% of our traffic is international. We operate leafly in English and French and Spanish.
Okay, and we can obviously follow the users based on those languages. What are some of the global markets that you're excited about where Leafly is being used?
That's one of the things that's fascinating about Leafly is that, as you would expect, people use Leafly in the 23 medical cannabis states as well as the 4 recreational cannabis states, but they also use Leafly in places like Texas and Alabama and Georgia or the United Kingdom, where there isn't a robust medical cannabis program. And so we're able to see and learn what patients and consumers are searching for, not only in the legal states but elsewhere around the world, so that we can continue to provide the content that those Leafly users are looking for. And that's been an interesting part of the model in that it educates us on cannabis consumers and trends around the world.
Absolutely, and I would imagine Spain, the Netherlands, Uruguay would be top hits for you. Is there another country up in that pantheon?
Certainly Spain, the Netherlands. We see a lot of traffic from the UK, and we also see traffic has grown in Italy over the last few years. Germany is really interesting right now. I think Germany will be the second G8 nation to implement a national medical cannabis program. And so we're excited about some of the developments there. I spent a lot of time in the EU in 2015, and the sense I get when I'm there, the feeling I get when I'm there is not dissimilar to the feeling that I got in the U.S. 2 to 3 years ago. And oftentimes here in the U.S. we think of this as a Western U.S. phenomenon or a United States phenomenon, and it's not. Everything that we're seeing here in the U.S. is happening around the world. It's a global change, and that's something that we're really excited about.
Absolutely, yeah. We feel that as well. One country that you did highlight that I haven't heard highlighted in such a way is Germany. Can you give us one level deeper on what you're hearing?
Oh gosh, I was in Berlin and Munich in November. Meeting with government officials and regulators there, and just last week, so mid-January, they released a draft bill that outlined some of the proposals they have for a national medical cannabis program, not very dissimilar to the program that was released in Canada about 2 years ago.
Excellent. All right. So that is not only what's going on in Privateer, that's also what's happening around the world in cannabis per Brendan Kennedy. Are you actually from Washington? I know you went to the University of. At least you got a master's there, right?
Yeah. So I grew up in San Francisco and have an undergraduate degree from Berkeley. And so I lived the first half of my life in San Francisco and have spent the bulk of the last 20 years in Seattle, except for a few 1 or 2 year stints, obviously in New Haven, Connecticut when I was going to Yale, and then returned to San Francisco for a while I was working in Silicon Valley.
So early 90s Berkeley, NorCal, University of California, Berkeley. Tell us what it was like on campus in the early 90s.
My high school in San Francisco sent about 40 people to Berkeley that year. and it was really an extension of the social network that I had growing up in San Francisco. So it was an exciting place. It was an interesting place. I loved it. I've gone to other schools, but I'll always be a Bear at heart.
So you've got a pretty impressive, facility in British Columbia for Tilray. How much of your architecture degree did you use to put that thing together?
That was the most challenging, difficult, rewarding project I've ever worked on in my life, and it really used every tool that I have in my tool belt. To use a construction metaphor,
sure.
In terms of architecture, engineering, construction, project management, and my business degree and technology, frankly. I used it all, and we were able to pull off a massive construction project to build out a $30 million facility in a very short window in order to get a license from the federal regulator in Canada. And so it was. It certainly used every skill I have and a lot of knowledge that I've accumulated over the years.
Yeah, what was that architecture choice? Why did you kind of find that to begin with?
Oh gosh, for me it was something interesting to study. If you go to any university around the world, architecture students are extremely smart. Typically test higher than students at a medical school or a law school. For me, it taught me how to think. It taught me how to have an idea, to come up with a plan, articulate that plan, and communicate it to others. And it doesn't matter if you're designing a building or designing a piece of software or designing a company with a business plan, such as everything that we're doing. It's all the same principles. It's all about project management. It's all about having an idea, articulating that idea, building a team to accomplish that goal. And that's what we've done here at Privateer Holdings. We had an idea. We built a team of 250 smart professional employees to accomplish our dreams. And we've gone out and raised capital to invest in this industry around the world. And so it was a great foundation for everything that we're doing today.
So regarding raising capital, we couldn't help but notice the Peter Thiel relationship. How involved is he? How excited is he about the industry? What's the relationship there?
So that was a long process from our first meeting to the actual investment. It took about 16 or 17 months. And we had meetings in Seattle and San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles, Vancouver, and Nanaimo, British Columbia. And they did a founders fund, did a lot of due diligence on us as a company, on everything that we were working on in our strategy. We couldn't ask for a better group of investors. Obviously they were looking to not only make this investment, but to be very public about it. They're seen as being contrarian investors. They're seen as wanting to invest in entrepreneurs and visionaries that have an audacious plan, and certainly we fit that profile. They were interested in this space. They knew it's a long play. Certainly looking at SpaceX or Airbnb or Lyft, PayPal, Facebook, those were all long plays, and they wanted to make this investment. They're in it for the long haul, and they were public about it. And for us, that was important. It was an important milestone for us as a company, but it was also an important milestone for the industry as a whole. Once again, I started this conversation by saying a rising tide lifts all boats, and it was important for the industry. at the time, we said that it gave other smart investors permission to look at this space, to look at this industry. And I think that's been the case. We're proud of that accomplishment, and we think it has helped everyone else in the industry.
Yeah, he did definitely beat most folks to the punch there. And, I know my personal thought is that once he did or once both of you, if you will, became, once that became public, all of a sudden there were many more money people knocking on doors. So congratulations on that and everything that you've done. I do have 3 final questions for you. I'm going to tell you what they are, and then I'll ask you them one by one. The first one is what has most surprised you in cannabis? Second question is what has most surprised you in life? Third question is, on the soundtrack of Brendan Kennedy's life, name one track, name one song that's got to be on there. So first one's first, as far as cannabis, what has most surprised you in cannabis?
The velocity of change. I've been stunned by how quickly this industry moves. And for me, it's been a constant case of whiplash over the last 6 years. Every time I've thought, this can't go faster, it has. And so that has to be the biggest surprise.
Absolutely, yeah. What has most surprised you in life?
I need to think about that one for a second.
That's fine. I mean, as far as pace of change in the industry, we've heard that, we hear that all the time, and that obviously is the case with each state changing their regulations on a regular basis. A surprise nomination and election, or nomination, a surprise election win by Prime Minister Trudeau up north, and everything is changing all the time, every day. So certainly understood on your first point. Have you come up with what has most surprised you in life? It is a sizable question. It's a big question. I'll give you that.
In my 20s, I was really focused on surrounding myself with smart people, and didn't really have a clear career path. And in my 30s, I really tried to focus on building a foundation for what I would do in my 40s. And you asked a question earlier about architecture and writing software and founding other companies as an entrepreneur. And what surprised me the most in life is how all the different experiences that we have tie together. And I never would have imagined doing what I do today. I never would have imagined that we would be building a pioneering company in the global cannabis industry. And I'm so surprised by how supportive all of my friends and family have been, and employees have been in this process. We thought we were a little bit crazy when we announced what we were doing 6 years ago, and we thought we'd have some people that would have severe objections to what we were doing, but that really hasn't been the case. Everyone I've met, everyone in my network has just been so supportive of this endeavor, and it was surprising but also extremely rewarding to see their reactions to what we've done.
Yeah, absolutely. That goes for your network as well as the larger populace. Thoughts have really changed about this industry in the past 3 years, without question. Final thoughts. What is that one tune? What is that one song that's got to be on the soundtrack of Brendan Kennedy's life?
Oh, gosh. This might be cliched, but I'll go with Bob Marley and the Wailers and Get Up, Stand Up.
There's nothing cliche about it. That is the first time that's been suggested. It's a perfect song and a perfect way to end. Brendan, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Seth. I appreciate it.
And there you have Brendan Kennedy. Really appreciated talking to Brendan. Not a ton of time, but we did get through a fair amount of content. So I'm sure you can tell how and why he's been so successful in the space and in life. So again, check us out on Twitter @CanEconomy.